can I associate myself and my party with the comments of the Foreign Secretary about the terrible rail crash in Spain? And can I thank her for her statement? Madam Deputy Speaker, President Trump is acting like an international gangster, threatening to trample over the sovereignty of an ally, threatening the end of NATO altogether, and now threatening to hit our country and 7 European allies with outrageous, damaging tariffs unless he gets his hands on Greenland. This is an incredibly grave moment for the United Kingdom, Europe and our world. Without provocation or justification, the President of the United States is attacking our economy, our livelihoods and our national security. Trump has put British businesses and jobs on the front line in his unprovoked aggression. The only people cheering him on are Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. Only a few months ago, Trump hailed the special relationship at Windsor Castle. Now, thanks to his actions, it is nearly in tatters. So how do we stop Trump's damaging trade war? For a year now, Madam Deputy Speaker, the Prime Minister has tried a policy of appeasing Trump, flattering him, fawning over him, refusing to stand up to him, because, he argued, otherwise Trump would hit us with damaging tariffs. Well, the Prime Minister has tested his approach to destruction. It has failed. It is time for the government to change course. We have to finally be clear-eyed about the sort of man Trump is and treat him accordingly. He is a bully. He thinks he can grab whatever he wants using force if necessary. And he is corrupt. The most corrupt president the United States has ever seen. So there are only 2 ways of getting him to back down: bribing him with a new jet perhaps, or a few billion in his crypto account, or standing up to him like we would with any other bully, standing together with our European allies to make him back down. That's the choice. Which one, Foreign Secretary?
Well, this is clearly a serious moment. I wonder if the honourable gentleman actually saw the Prime Minister's response this morning. And he should know that it is because this is a serious moment that we respond in a serious way. That this Prime Minister responds in a serious way, in a calm, robust and hard-headed way about what is in the UK's national interest, and also how we work together in the alliances that are crucial for our security, our prosperity, and also are underpinned by our values. That is why the Prime Minister has been so firm in the United Kingdom's response. It's why I welcomed the Danish Foreign Minister to London today. And I think that the honourable member's description of our Prime Minister's response and our UK government response is inappropriate. I would say I think this is a really important time for parties to come together on how we ensure that we can respond to the situation that we are in, that we can work closely with our allies, but that we can also create a constructive approach to our Arctic security, which ultimately will depend on transatlantic cooperation and ultimately will depend on ensuring that those alliances and that transatlantic alliance respects the principles of sovereignty and respects the principles of collective security. That is something we will do in a sober and serious way.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. What we're witnessing is a very rude awakening for European nations, including our own, that if you don't properly invest in sovereign capabilities for defence and security and rely instead on others, then sooner or later you will be bullied or blackmailed by larger nations. And the question for us is, are we just going to kick the can down the road and just trundle along with small, gradual increases in defence investment, or are we going to chart a path to 3% GDP defence spending in this Parliament? Now, in terms of Arctic security, the Foreign Secretary intimated that only one British officer was involved in the Danish-led Operation Arctic Endurance in Greenland. Could she please update the House as to our current and future planned participation, and are there any political or practical constraints in that future participation?
Secretary. And the specific issue that he raised, it was not an operation, it was a planning process, as takes place very routinely, and that continues to be the case. What we are arguing for is a broader approach to Arctic security. In fact, the UK's strongest contribution is around the north of Norway. Our partnership with Norway is really now unrivalled. Both the commandos, the excellent work that I saw at Camp Viking and elsewhere, and also of the frigates, the joint frigates there. And that is our unrivalled. For a non-Arctic nation, our contribution to Arctic security is now unrivalled, and we see this as being part of Arctic Sentry, a wider approach to the collective Arctic security. But what I would also say is he raises the issue about investment. We are this is exactly why we are have put forward the biggest increase in defence spending for very many years.
Malthouse.
Madam Deputy Speaker, the Foreign Secretary, I'm afraid, is being rather mealy-mouthed about a situation that the President of the United States obviously sees as very simple. He believes that either through extortion, and he's not denying that he may use military force to acquire Greenland, whichever way you look at it. So 2 questions. First of all, as she will know, there are significant military assets owned by the United States based here in the United Kingdom. Could they be used as part of an invasion of Greenland against our will? And secondly, does she recognise that when tariffs were first wielded as a weapon against the Canadians, we should have stood with them rather than cutting a snivelling deal?
Foreign Secretary.
Well, all I would say to him, first of all, is clearly that is not the situation that we are talking about. We have been very clear about the importance of both sovereignty and collective security, that this is not just part of the NATO alliance, that these are fundamental principles that we stand for as well. And in terms of the work around tariffs, as we'll know, the work the Prime Minister led has been effective in addressing tariffs in the past. We will show the same determination and robust approach again. Similarly, we have done so on other issues as well. It is important that we focus around the results that we can get by taking a hard-headed approach. That is what we're continuing to do.
Dengchi and Wara.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Knocking on doors in Denton and Westerhope, Arthur's Hill and Wingrove, for the first time in my 15 years as an MP, the #1 issue was global insecurity. President Trump has succeeded in uniting the British people against his unwarranted attack on a close ally. Now, my right honourable friend is right to be calm and diplomatic, but will she reassure us that given the current President's volatility, she and her government will ensure that our sovereignty is not dependent on US capability, and specifically that our technology procurement, both civil and defence, will reflect this?
Well, my honourable friend is right to talk about the very strong feeling on this right across the UK, the very strong feeling for the sense of protecting sovereignty for the people of Greenland, for the people of Denmark more widely, and also the real deep sense that to have tariffs proposed in this way is just deeply wrong. It's also counterproductive to our collective security, but it is also deeply wrong. She also raises the issues about sort of UK resilience as well. She will know on things like the Five Eyes partnership, there is very deep, long-standing cooperation and shared technology, but there are also areas where we agree that Europe needs to do more for its own defence and its own investment as well, and that's what we're doing.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I declare an interest as Chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Greenland. President Trump's threat to annex Greenland, either the easy way or the hard way, is pushing Europe to the verge of one of the biggest political crises and security crises we've faced in decades. Now his threat to impose punitive tariffs on those opposing his illegal annexation means that the President of our closest ally is using economic and military threats against the UK and other European nations simply for defending sovereignty, self-determination and international law. So on what basis does this government view this particular President as being a trustworthy and reliable ally?
Secretary.
Well, we have made very clear that threats to Greenland's sovereignty are wrong. Threats on tariffs and on economic pressure are wrong because allies should stand together and not face the kinds of threats that we have seen. Particularly, that is an issue for the UK, but also particularly Denmark, that has been such a close ally to both the UK and the US as well. We are taking a very robust, hard-headed approach to this, to work through what is in the UK national interest and to get a resolution to this that can protect and defend and strengthen the Arctic security and also UK security more widely, and that is the right thing to do.
Colleagues need to shorten their questions. Many members want to get in, and that depends on the length of your questions. Alan Gemmell.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I thank the Foreign Secretary for setting out the UK's position on the future of Greenland for the people of Greenland and for the Danes to decide. It's not right that one of our closest and oldest allies threatens us with economic sanctions, and I have two questions for the Foreign Secretary. How will she explain to the US administration our interests and actions at this time and stop the sanctions and resolve the situation? And might she take an interest in the Franco-British fast jet replacement programme and a company called Aralis, so that we don't have to rely on a British solution, building on the excellent question from the member for Newcastle upon Tyne Central and West?
Foreign Secretary.
Well, I can say we have been very clear to the US and more widely about the importance of countries working together to strengthen security. That is exactly what Denmark has been seeking to do, to strengthen security of Greenland as part of strengthening Arctic security against the Russian threat. And that should be something which is recognised as important, recognised as valuable, where countries come together to do so, because Arctic security is a multilateral issue. It's not a unilateral issue, it's a multilateral issue. It will only be strengthened by countries working together. So this is about our interests on that shared collective security, but also our values in defending sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Subscribe to One India and never miss an update. Download the One India app now.